too. I don't know if it's allergies or hot cold as well, but it's wrong. We should write down something bad or cough dropping or what's in the bag.
Please now in session, the Honorable Allison McCarty presiding. Thank you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We're ready to proceed again, and we need to state another witness. Is that correct?
We do, Your Honor. It's called Dave Eisel.
You said the testimony you give the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Consider yourself on the podium. Sit over there. Put the microphone down in front of you, and remember that even though it's there, this is a large courtroom, so you need to project when you speak. Okay?
Good morning, Mr. Eisel. Will you please tell us your full name and spell your last name?
David Michael Eisel, E-I-S-E-L-E,
And how old are you?
31.
And are you presently working?
Yes.
And what kind of work do you do?
I'm a heavy equipment operator.
And do you work for a specific company?
Akron Conservation,
And how long have you been a heavy equipment operator?
almost 10 years.
And did you grow up in this area?
Yes.
And tell us where you grew up and where you went to high school.
I grew up in Akron and went to High School.
And did you graduate?
Yes.
And what year did you graduate?
2002.
Mr. Eisel, and is that how you pronounce your name? It's E-I-S-E-L-E, correct? Mr. Eisel, are you familiar with an establishment known as Papa Don's Pub?
Yes, I am.
And how are you familiar with that place?
Been a patron there.
And you know that we're here to discuss events that occurred on the evening of November 15th into the early morning hours of November 16th. Prior to that, how long had you been a patron there at Papa Don's?
Probably 2 years.
And how regularly would you go to Papa Don's?
Probably twice a week.
As far as your work schedule, as a heavy machine operator, what was your regular work schedule if you had one?
It's normally anywhere from 7 to, say, 5 at night.
Now, through your connection or your visiting Papa Don's, did you become familiar with an individual by the name of Tiffany Miller?
Yes.
And how did you know her?
She's a bartender down
And outside of Papa Don's, did you know her?
there. We're just gone to a few Browns games before on a bus from Papa Don's.
And what about Justin Winebrenner? Were you familiar with that individual?
Yes.
And how were you familiar with him?
Same thing, back and down Papa Don's.
And would you also be involved in doing anything with him outside of Papa Don's?
I've gone to the Browns game with him before also.
Let me take you back then to the evening of November 15th. And did you go to Papa Don's that evening?
Yes, I did.
And do you remember whether you went by yourself or who you went with?
No, I was friends.
One friend?
Yeah, and then another one came down here that evening.
Okay, and what are the names of those friends?
I went with Chris Allen and my buddy Ryan Louette. Met us down there later.
And does Ryan Louette, does he sometimes go by Lou?
Yes.
And do you remember approximately what time you would have arrived at Papa Don's that evening?
I believe it was around 10:30.
And do you remember where you had come from prior to going to Papa Don's?
My house.
How long had you been at your house for?
All day. Unless I worked that day. I mean, I was.
So you get to Papa Don's around 10 p.m. Now, is there an area in the bar that you would commonly position yourself?
I believe that we were standing down on the corner, like straight across from the door.
Okay. And you see to the left of you there is, I believe it states Exhibit 5, which is a diagram of the inside of Papa Don's. Do you recognize that?
Yes.
Okay. And I'll have you, if you would, maybe get down and there's a pointer over there by the so the jury can see. Can you point out the area in which you commonly positioned yourself during the course of that evening? And that's the bar. The bar has been described as an L-shaped bar. Is that correct?
Yes.
And so you would be at the very top of the L. Is that fair to say?
It'd be the end of it, yeah, at top.
And is there a seat there, or did you just stand in that position? Okay. All right. Thank you. You can resume your seat. And Mr. Osler, do you recall what you were wearing that evening?
I had an Ohio State jacket on and blue jeans.
And what color would the Ohio State jacket be?
Red.
Now, prior to that evening, were you familiar with an individual by the name of Kenan Ivery?
No, I was not.
Did you come to learn of an individual by that name having been at the bar that night?
Yes, I did.
And did you see him there that night?
Yes, I did.
And do you recall what he was wearing that evening?
I believe he had on a black coat and glasses.
And do you recall your first
I believe I was still down where I was standing when I originally got there.
So as far as being able to hear what they were discussing, did you hear any of the specifics of that conversation?
No, I did not.
During the course of that evening, did you yourself have any conversation with Kenan Ivery?
No, I did not.
After Tiffany, you see Tiffany and Kenan Ivery talking together, what's your next memory of Kenan Ivery?
Seeing him over by Justin.
Now, did you have conversation? How long had Justin been at the bar to that point, if you remember?
I don't recall how long he'd been there.
Had you had an opportunity, had you spoken with him that night?
I believe so, yes.
Do you remember one time, multiple times?
I think a couple times.
What kind of mood was Justin in?
A good mood, joking around.
And what kind of things was he joking around about?
Just the Browns game and things like that.
Now, when Kenan Ivery leaves the bar, do you at that time know why he's leaving the bar?
I had been told he was asked to leave.
As far as any discussions he had had with Tiffany or anybody else in the bar up to that point, were you able to hear any conversations up to that point?
No, I was not.
How long would you say in total you were at the bar that night?
Well, I got to check for 3 hours.
Do you recall whether you were drinking alcohol at the bar?
Yes, I was drinking beer.
And do you know how many beers you had?
No.
Do you recall that prior to getting to the bar you had had any beer or any other type of liquor?
No, I had not.
And how would you, at the time that Kenan Ivery is leaving the bar, how would you describe your level of intoxication at that point?
Very little.
So you see Kenan Ivery leave. Do you see him again then?
Yes, I saw him when he came back.
Do you recall how much time elapsed until he came back?
A few minutes.
Tell us what you remember seeing and happening at that point.
I saw him come in, and I believe Tiffany confronted him, and it seemed like they were arguing, and I saw him start fidgeting around with something on his side. And I remember seeing my friend, who's kind of pulled his shirt up a little bit each time. Is that a phone or is that a gun?
And when you see this occurring, where are you positioned at that point?
At the end of the bar.
Same spot,
Yes.
standing at the end of the bar. And could you approximate how far away Kenan Ivery was at that time?
15 or 20 feet.
And do you have a clear view then of his person?
Yes, I do.
And where did you see this object on his person?
On his right hip.
On his right hip.
Yes.
And were you able to tell whether it was in a pocket or in the waistband?
I believe it was in a waistband.
And you made a comment then to did you say Lou?
Yes.
Who was he was standing next to you at the time?
Yes.
What did you say to him?
Asked him if that was a phone or a gun.
And did you continue to watch Mr. Ivery at that point?
Yes, I did.
And as you watched, did you become more certain in your mind as to whether it was a phone or a gun?
Yes.
Tell us about that.
You could clearly see it was a gun. You could see the butt of it sticking out.
You indicated that you observed him kind of touching it.
Yes.
Did you say patting it? May have been.
Yeah, kind of like fiddling around with it a little bit.
What do you recall happening next?
Officer Winebrenner went over and was confronting him. They were talking, and then I saw him they got closer and closer to each other, and I kind of walked over that way, and I saw him standing with a gun in his right hand.
When you say that Officer Winebrenner confronted him, do you mean verbally, physically, or both?
To walk over towards Mr. Ivery.
Okay. And when you start walking over to Mr. Ivery, what exactly do you see?
I saw him pull the gun, and he had a gun in his right hand.
He pulled the gun from where?
His right hip.
And in which direction is he pulling it?
Up.
Up. Upon seeing that, what, if anything, did you do?
I grabbed his arm, and we kind of shoved him into.
The front door, do you recall what you saw out there?
I do not.
You do not.
I just recall being on the ground and looking over and seeing Mr. Ivery run away and Justin on the ground.
So, and correct me if I'm wrong from your testimony, you indicated that you fell down by the front door, correct?
Yes.
And would that have been in or outside of the bar?
Inside.
And you get up and then go outside?
Yes.
When you get up, what happened next?
I saw he was shot, and I put my hand on his chest and put pressure on it. And then I said, I gotta look, and I pulled his shirt up a little bit. I saw he was shot in the stomach also. I put both my hands on him, and I believe that time Officer Russell came out and was at Justin's head talking to him, trying to talk to him.
As far as it was Justin conscious at the time?
No, he was not.
Was he able to say anything?
No, he was not.
Do you recall if he was making any noises at that point?
Yes.
And what type of noises was he making?
Almost sounded like a snoring noise.
Did you see which direction he had gone at that time?
To basically his left corner, top left corner of that diagram is where he was going towards East Market Street.
Mr. Iso, in regards to then, as this case proceeded, do you remember talking to the police?
Yes, I do.
And when's the first time you talked to the police?
It was that evening.
So at this point, we're talking about early hours of Sunday morning. Would it have been
Yes.
in the morning hours still?
Yeah.
Would you have gone home, or would you have remained at Papa Don's and initially talked to police at that
No, I
time?
remained there.
And they recorded your interview at that time?
Yes, I did.
How long did you talk to them there at the bar?
Just a few minutes.
Did you have an opportunity to speak with them again?
Yes.
And do you remember how much time elapsed before you spoke with them again?
Maybe a week and a half or so, seemed like.
And where did that interview occur?
The Akron Police Department.
And at that time, did you have an opportunity to see some of the security footage, the video from inside the bar that evening?
Yes, I did.
And did you recognize some of the events that occurred while you were present?
Yes.
And specifically, did you recognize the time when Kenan Ivery came back to the bar and you saw what you believed to be a gun in his right waistband?
Yes.
At this time, then, I'm going to show you that portion of the video and have you point out what you recall happening at those times.
Do you want me to dim the lights?
Yes, with your permission, can I have Mr. Isom come over to this side of the television?
Sure.
To his testimony, and I believe there's a microphone over on that table. Mr. Isom, states exhibit 4 that we are playing, number 4, and the time stamp on the bottom of the video is 1:52 and 49 seconds. And do you recognize yourself in the video? I'll give you this. Yes, I do. And would you please point out where you're located? And your jacket looks orange. Is that the correct color of your jacket?
No, that's right.
So the colors, would you agree the colors in this video are a little skewed?
Yes.
As far as other individuals in the bar, can you point out anyone else you recognize?
Jeff, basically his name is,
You can stand up. Jeff. Jeff Bates is where again?
right here.
He appears to have kind of a green shirt with some white design on the front.
Yes.
Who else do you recognize in that still?
Dave
And that'd be, Dave's last name?
Wachowski.
Okay. You know, it's Big Dave, is that correct? And how well do you know Big Dave?
Just from down there, same. Just spoke to him down
Anyone else you recognize?
there. Justin, sitting at the bar.
And we're talking about sitting at the bar. What position of the bar would you describe him as far as, is he at the ends or in the middle?
About the center.
And what do you recall what Justin was wearing that evening?
Green button shirt, I think, and green hat.
Anybody else that you recognize?
My friend Ryan,
And Ryan is wearing what?
the shorts and the white shirt and the one cap.
And at this point, do you see Kenan Ivery in the still?
No, I do not.
And what are you doing at this time?
I'm looking over because I heard saw him kind of lift his shirt up, see notches sticking out of his right waist.
During this time, then, are you kind of, is that what your thoughts, this could possibly be a gun? Is that what your focus remained then from that point on?
Yes, it was.
What do you recall seeing and thinking at this point?
I was pretty confident that it was a gun.
And as far as Justin, do you recall what you saw him doing at this point?
Walking over the top of his
This is what you described earlier, that you confronted him verbally. Is this the point that you recall that happening?
yes. He drew the weapon up out of his waistband.
And the gun was in which hand at that point?
I believe it was right.
Right there, what do you recall happening after the shot was fired?
Just turning, falling down the door.
at this point right here, are we still able to see you in the still of this video?
Yes.
Can you point yourself out? That would have been after you all got up and it appeared you're heading out the door. Is that what happened?
Yes.
Thank you. Previously identified as being collected at the scene. If you don't have gloves on, I'm going to continue to hold it, but showing you this item. Do you recognize that exhibit?
Yes, I do.
And what do you recognize that exhibit to be?
Officer Winebrenner's hat.
And is that the hat he was wearing that evening?
Yes.
Now, staying at Papa Don's, the assumption is that you were not hit, your body was not hit with any of the bullets that were fired, is that correct?
Yes.
Did you, though, make a discovery as it relates to the clothing you had on that night?
Yes, I did.
Okay, tell us about that, how you made that discovery.
We were also over at my friend Brian's house, and
Okay, let me put that in timeline, sorry to interrupt you, but, so you're at the bar, police, EMS show up, eventually you're interviewed at the bar, is that correct?
yes.
Okay, tell us then when, from that point on, you would have made a discovery in your clothing.
We were at my friend Ryan's house, and we were all sitting around, and somebody pointed out that there was a hole in my jacket.
Now, would you have gone to Ryan's house immediately from Papa Don's?
Yes, we did.
Okay, so you're at Ryan's house after leaving Papa Don's early that morning, and somebody pointed out the hole in your jacket, correct?
Yes.
Had that hole been there prior to that evening?
No, no.
Again, I'm going to show you the previously marked and identified as State's Exhibit 131. Ask you if you're able to recognize this exhibit.
Yes, that's my jacket.
And when you talked about the holes, where specifically are those holes?
Right in the front, right in the front chest, and kind of back a little bit from the section.
One is actually through the Ohio State emblem, is that correct?
Yes.
And then another one is to the left of that. And these holes were not there prior to that evening.
Right.
No further questions.
don't know if we'll give him rights at any point.
Get his first one.
I'd like to talk to him first. Mr. Isel, I'm Kerry O'Brien, along with John Greville, and we represent Mr. Ivory. First of all, that night, you indicated that you've got at the bar about 10:30, is that correct?
Yes, I believe so.
And take it as fact that this happens at about 10 minutes to 2.
Yes.
Do we agree?
Yes.
All right, so that means you've been at the bar about 3 hours and 20 minutes?
Yes.
And can you give us an estimate as to how much you had to drink?
Estimating 4 to 5 beers, something like that.
All right. What's your height and weight?
I'm 6'2", about 215.
Okay. And do you also wear corrective lenses?
Yes, I do.
Does that mean contacts?
Yes.
All right. Do you know if you were wearing your contacts that night?
Yes, I was.
Do you wear them all the time?
Yes.
All right. And the night that you're there, I think you indicate that you first see Kenan Ivery, you first notice him talking to Tiffany. Is that correct?
Yes.
And that would have been, what if I use the chart? And if I were to say you first see him talking to Tiffany, would he be back near the kitchen area?
Yes.
All right. And at that point in time, do you see any type of confrontation or argument or anything like that?
Not at that point in time.
All right. And at any point in time, up until Mr. Ivory returns to the bar, do you see Mr. Ivory causing any type of commotion?
No, I do not.
All right. Do you see him arguing with anybody, throwing anything, do anything like that?
No, I didn't see him doing it.
All right. You've got a fairly advantageous point right here. You can see all the way down the bar. You can see the front door also, can't you?
Yes, I can.
Is that on purpose? Is that your favorite spot there, or did you just happen to choose that night?
No, I just chose that. I normally stay actually at the far end.
All right. When you see Mr. Ivory leave the bar, do you then go over and talk to Justin Winebrenner?
Yes, I do.
All right. And you had seen Mr. Ivory talking to Mr. Winebrenner prior to him leaving, is that correct?
Yes.
Did that seem to be an argument? Was there any pushing or shoving or any loud noises or anything like that?
No.
All right. When you spoke to Mr. Winebrenner, did he say to you, that guy just left as a real bad person or a jerk or something like that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. He didn't even mention Kenan Ivery, did he?
No, not to me, did not.
Okay. When you saw Mr. Ivory leave, do you remember that man, sir?
Yes, I do.
All right. When he left, was he grabbed by 2 or 3 people and thrown physically out the door?
No, not the first time.
And you've had a chance to see this video before, is that correct, sir?
Yes.
All right. So from looking at the video and or your memory, Mr. Ivory walked out the door fairly calmly, did he not?
The first time, yes.
All right. Was he cursing or yelling or doing anything unusual at that point in time?
Not that I can hear.
All right. So is it fair to say he walked out the door at a normal pace, in a normal way?
Yes.
All right. And he's gone a couple minutes, is that correct?
Yeah.
And during that span of time that you go talk to Mr. Winebrenner, is that fair?
I don't believe I did at that point in time.
All right. But after Mr. Ivory talked to him, you talked to Mr. Winebrenner, correct?
Yes.
All right. And then Mr. Winebrenner never mentioned Ivory being a problem, correct?
No, I did not.
Okay. Did you hear any conversations about Mr. Ivory and lady or woman by the name of Anne Marie?
Yes, I did.
Okay? And who did you hear that from?
I believe it was my friend Ryan.
Okay? And You see Mr. Ivery walk back in the bar, is that correct?
Yes, I do.
All right. And he comes in, I'm going to use the chart and the video. This is the front doorway entry.
Yes.
All right. And you are standing right about that corner, is that correct, sir?
Yes.
All right. And going to the video, front door is right about there.
Yep.
And that's you, and I appreciate that's a red Ohio State jacket, but because of the tint of the video, that comes across as kind of a burnt orange. Would you agree with me, sir?
Yes.
All right. But that's no doubt that's you.
No, yes, that's me.
All right. Now, standing near the front doorway is a fairly good-sized individual, and I'm pointing at whom?
Dave, okay.
Okay. Big Dave, correct?
Yes.
All right. And this person right there, sitting about halfway down the bar with what I'll call a hunting cap on, is Mr. Winebrenner?
Yes.
All right. When Mr. Ivery walks in, do you recall how he walks back in the bar?
Walked in.
All right. At a normal pace?
I would say.
All right. He's not cursing or yelling?
Not that I can hear, no.
All right. Does he have anything in his hands?
No.
Okay? And he gets to a certain point, right about, let's use that inflatable Browns design as a starting point. He gets to about there. Would you agree, sir?
Yes.
All right. And who's standing right there, basically in his way?
Big Dave.
Okay. How big do you think Big Dave is? This you know.
I don't know.
If I said he's over 300 pounds, would you disagree with me?
He's probably around there.
Okay. And John, could you play this? Judge, can we have the lights come? Yes, please. Big Dave is facing the doorway, correct?
Yes.
Could you stop it, John? Judge, we're going to go back and forth real quick, so rather than jump up and down with the lights, can I ask questions while we're in the semi-darkness?
Sure.
Okay. Mr. Eisel, up to this point, Big Dave is standing in front of Mr. Ivery, is that correct?
Yes.
And Mr. Ivery appears to be lifting up his jacket,
Yes.
all right? And is there a person between Mr. Ivery and Mr. Mulcahy?
Not that I can see.
If I showed you a person right about there and suggested that was Tiffany Miller, would that refresh your memory?
That one makes sense, yes.
All right. And if I point to the middle of the bar and the person with their back to this whole situation with a hunting cap on, would that be who?
Officer Wyman.
Okay. He was off duty at that point in time, wasn't he?
Yes.
You're right here, correct?
Yes.
John. Now, up to this point, there's no real commotion, is there?
No, no.
All right. Is Mr. Ivory stepping back at that point? All right. He's got nothing in his hands, does he?
No.
Okay. Please, John. Mr. Winebrenner has his back to the bar.
I believe so.
Okay. Is Mr. Mr. Ivory is moving to his left. Is that a fair way of putting it?
Yes.
All right. And is he moving possibly toward either the kitchen, the restroom, or the middle of the bar?
Yes, he's moving that direction.
Okay. Please, John. Stop. All right. At this point in time, you are moving from the bar toward where Mr. Mulcahy and Mr. Winebrenner are. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. Please. Stop. At this point in time, Mr. Heisel, is it fair to say that you were right about there? Is that correct, sir?
Yes.
All right. So you're on Mr. Ivory's right, correct?
Yes.
And who is to Mr. Ivory's front?
Big Dave.
All right. And who would be to his left?
Justin.
All right. And what is to his back?
The wall possibly.
Okay. So is it fair to say at that point in time, have any shots been fired?
No.
Is there any yelling or screaming?
Not that I can hear.
All right. And is it fair to say at that point in time that Mr. Ivory is surrounded?
I would say so.
Now, no shots have been fired, correct?
No.
All right. Have you even really heard any loud noises, have we?
No.
All right. Jonathan, please. Stop it. All right. At that point in time, who grabs Mr. Ivory?
I did.
Right. You drag him back. Is that a fair way of putting it?
Yes.
And I think you're going over a table there in front of that Brown's inflatable.
Yeah.
And so we've got you, Mr. Winebrenner, and Mr. Mulcahy there. Is that correct?
I believe so, yes.
All right. And the three of you have him surrounded, correct?
Yes.
And you pulled him over the table. Is that correct?
Yeah.
All right. We heard what?
Shots?
Yeah. Before the shots, what do we hear?
No.
Did we hear a yell?
I don't know.
Well, that's for the
Later.
jury. That's for the jury to decide. Yeah, it would. Yeah. Sure. At that point in time, you grabbed Mr. Ivory, is that correct?
Yes.
Along with Mr. Mulcahy and Mr. Winebrenner. Fair statement?
Yes.
All right. No shots have been fired, have they?
No.
All right. If you'd listen very carefully, what happens next? John, if you would. Is that correct, sir?
Yes.
All right. If we could have the lights run. So is it safe to say, Mr. Eisel, that you grabbed Mr. Ivory along with maybe some pushing or shoving from Mr. Winebrenner, Mr. Mulcahy? You pull him back, you hear a yell, then you hear first shots. Is that a fair statement, sir? All right. Sir, thank you for your time.
Hold on.
One more question. I'm going to go back to the video again. For some of the questions that the defense counsel asked. We go back to when Kenan Ivery first entered the bar at 163. Judge, I hit the lights again. From that point, now I believe at this point you were asked by Mr. O'Brien, up to this point, there's no real commotion going on, is that correct?
Yes.
And you agree that at that time there's no real commotion going on?
Yes.
But what do you see when you're looking at Mr. Ivery?
Him pulling his shirt up, kind of brandishing a weapon.
I'm sorry?
Him pulling his shirt up, kind of showing a gun.
And at that point, do you see him pat the gun?
Yes, I did see him touch it.
But at that point, you indicate there's no commotion going on, correct?
Yes.
And at that point, you were asked about him being surrounded. Is he surrounded at that point?
Not at that point.
And if the clock on the video would say 1:53:12, would it be fair to say, if you recall, that that's about 11, 12 seconds after he's entered into the bar, correct?
Yes.
You were asked about him backing up. Is this the period where he backed up?
Yes, I believe so.
And are you able to see him at this point?
Yes.
And what is he doing at this point where the video marks 1:53:21?
So kind of guy's hand pulling his shirt up down towards the gun.
And at this point, has there been any commotion?
No.
But this is now the second time you see him making a movement towards his gun. Is that correct?
Yes.
And at this point, is he being surrounded by you and the other individuals? And at this time, had there been any big commotion?
No.
And at this point, was he surrounded in any way?
No.
And when you were asked specifically about grabbing, pushing, and shoving, was that before or after the gun had been drawn?
After the gun was drawn.
And when you pushed Mr. Ivery at the table, do you recall, or did you see how he's holding the gun at that point?
I just know it was in one of his hands.
No further questions.
Mr. Weissel, I'm not going to ask you, we're not going to play this game forward anymore, but we have Dave O'Kite standing right out there, and when Mr. Ivery walks in and we have a confrontation, Mr. O'Kite stays in about the same spot, give or take a couple feet.
Yes.
All right. And you're probably, I don't know what, 5'8" from Mr. Wakati at that point in time?
Yes, somewhere around there.
All right. I know you didn't have a tape measure at that point in time, I appreciate that. But did you see Mr. Wakati when Mr. Ivory walked in say anything to Mr. Ivory?
No.
Did you hear Mr. Wakati say anything to Mr. Ivory about I'm going to kick your black ass?
No.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Isley. You can sit down.
We call Jeffrey Bates.
To be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I swear testimony to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help me God.
Thank you. Have a seat right there and consider yourself under oath. Got that microphone in front of you. You need to make sure it's close to your mouth, okay? Because it's hard to hear. So remember to project when you speak.
Good morning, Mr. Bates. Would you please tell us your full name and spell your last name?
Jeffrey Lee Bates Jr., B-A-T-E-S,
And how old are you, sir?
26.
And are you presently working?
Yes, I am.
And what kind of work do you do?
Rubber factory mill operator.
And how long have you done that for?
Since June 23rd, 2014.
And as a mill operator, what kind of things do you do?
Smash rubber and take it off in slabs.
And Mr. Bates, where did you grow up? What area of town?
Akron, Ohio.
And did you go to high school in the area?
Yes, I did high school, class of 2007.
And after you graduated from high school, what did you do?
Joined the Marine Corps.
And how long were you in the Marine Corps?
4 years.
And what kind of position and responsibilities did you have in the Marine Corps?
Expeditionary Airfields Aircraft Recovery Specialist.
And were you stationed in any areas outside the country?
Okinawa, Japan, 3rd Bath.
And how long did you remain in the military?
For those 4 years.
After leaving the military, did you ever obtain employment with a bar restaurant known as Papa Don's?
Yes, I did.
And do you recall approximately when that happened?
Around 2013, I believe.
2013. Now, were you familiar with Papa Don's before you actually worked there?
Yes, I was. It opened just a few months before I came home.
And how were you familiar with it?
My uncle was good friends with one of the former bartenders named Brian Dean, and they took me down there to meet him, and then I just started going there because I lived in the area.
And you indicated that in 2013 you started working there?
Yes, I did.
And what kind of work did you do for Papa Don's?
I was the bar back.
And what is a bar back?
You help the bartenders with dishes, stocking beer, helping maintain the crowd.
Anything that the bartenders or anyone else who works there might ask you to help out with? Are you kind of
Yes, I'm like the go-to guy.
the go-to guy? And you started that in 2013, and did you work there all of 2014 then?
Not all of 2014.
Okay, when did you stop working there?
I'm not sure, actually.
As far as Tiffany Miller and Justin Winebrenner, were you familiar with those two individuals?
Yes, I was.
And how did you know those two? First of all, Tiffany. How did you know Tiffany?
Tiffany always worked at the bar, so
Okay. Was she one of the owners and the managers of the bar?
yes, she is.
Kind of, should be considered your boss during the time you were a bar back?
Yes.
What about Justin Winebrenner? How did you know him?
I met him through just being a patron there and then working there.
And what's the connection between Justin and Tiffany?
They were engaged.
Now, did you have any association or socialize in any way with Justin or Tiffany outside of Papa Don's?
Browns games or hanging out at other bars.
I'm going to direct your attention then back to November of 2014. And did you have a standard schedule as a bar back, excuse me?
Yes, I did.
And what was your schedule during that time period?
Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 8 to close.
Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 8 to close. And specifically, we're going to be talking about the evening of November 15th. Is that what your schedule was that day, to start at 8 and remain there until closing?
Yes, it was.
And usually what was closing, as far as what time?
At 2:30, we would remove everyone from the bar.
Would you still have to remain there, though, at Papa Don's for some job duties?
Yes, I would. We would stop here for the morning shifts, count the drawers, the bartenders would, mop and sweep the bar.
That evening, do you recall seeing an individual you would later learn the name of Kenan Ivery?
Yes, I do.
Now, prior to that evening, do you recall ever seeing that individual either in the bar or anywhere?
No, I do not.
So you had no contact that you can recall or ever, and don't recall ever seeing him prior to that night?
No.
As far as that night, who else was working at Papa Don's?
Scotty the cook. Tiffany was not working. Tara Dickerson was working. And Courtney Jordan was working.
And were Tara and Courtney the bartenders?
Yes, they were.
And how would you describe business that night as far as how busy and how many patrons were in the bar?
It was fairly busy.
How would you describe your workload as far as what you're doing during the course of the evening as far as being busy or not busy?
Enough to where I couldn't slow down, but not to where I was overwhelmed.
Okay. So when you say not enough to slow down, that you're always kind of continuously walking and doing duties, whatever tasks are at hand.
Yes.
At the bar. Now, Mr. Bates, do you recall the first time that you saw Mr. Ivery that evening?
He walked in, ordered some food, and then left again while he was waiting on his food.
And when he came in that first time, before he left, do you recall where he was at the bar, or inside Papa Don's?
About the third bar stool from the corner where the L shape is.
Okay. And you see to the left of you is a diagram, which includes an interior diagram of Papa Don's. Do you recognize that?
Yes.
And I'm going to hand you this pointer. If you would, sir, you can come on down if you need to read. Can you show us approximately where you recall Kenan Ivery sitting the first time he came to the bar? Do you see the bar on the chart? The L-shaped? So now you're pointing where he was sitting, is that right? I think maybe you lost your bearings a little bit. So he was sitting about 3 seats down from the south end, is that correct?
Yes.
And you indicated that he ordered food but then left the bar.
Yes.
You can have a seat. You might want to hang on to that pointer. After he left, you recall him returning to the bar.
Yes.
And tell us what you recall happening then.
Came back, he was talking to a couple of girls beside him. And then next thing I know, he's in an argument with Tiffany over something.
Okay. So you recall him coming back and talking to some girls beside him. I'm assuming your focus was not consistently on him then as the night progressed. Is that fair to say?
Correct.
You did make reference, though, to an argument. And do you recall where in the bar you observed this argument occurring?
Towards the round tables by the door.
Okay. And I'll have you stand up again and show us that location. And were they standing or were they sitting at the time?
They were standing at this point.
And did you see any of the events that had led up to that argument?
No, I did not.
What had caused that argument?
No, I did not.
Are you able to hear what's being said during the course of that argument?
No, I did not.
Are you able to hear the tone of their voices during the argument?
It sounds like they were aggressive, but I didn't really pay too much attention. Tiffany told me she had it under control.
As far as that argument, do you recall how long it lasted in that area?
It seemed like it was a while, but
What happened next?
they proceeded down. I remember Tiffany saying, walk with me, talk with me. I followed to about right here, and they proceeded over to here. Tiffany was trying to get Kenan to sit down while they talked, and she was sitting down in this stool.
And are you pointing to one of the pub tables there?
Yes, I am.
And Tiffany, did she in fact sit down at the pub table?
Yes, she did.
And you indicated that she was trying to get Kenan Ivery to sit down. Did he sit down as well?
No, you did not.
What happened next?
Myself and Justin approached up, and then Tiffany looked back at Justin. She said, "It's okay, baby. I've got it under control." Me and them both proceeded away.
Okay. Have a seat again. So you indicated that the conversation with Kenan and Tiffany kind of went towards that south end of the bar, correct?
Yes.
And did anyone ask you to go check on them, or did you feel the need to go check on what was going on in the back of the bar?
I went to go check because it was longer than normal for Tiffany to resolve a situation.
And once again, when you're back there, are you able to hear specifics of what are being said?
No, I am not.
Or do you detect what their demeanor or their behavior is during the time that they're back there?
Frustrated.
And when you say frustrated, who's frustrated?
Kenan,
And why do you say that?
because he had his arms going through the air, and
You saw a lot of body movement?
Yeah.
Is that fair to say? So you, now, is your testimony that you and Justin go together to check on her?
yes,
And you overheard Tiffany, was she talking to Justin then?
I just heard her say, "It's okay, baby, I have it under control."
And where is everybody when she makes that statement, as far as Tiffany, Kenan, and Justin?
Justin is slightly in front of me. I'm to the left, or the right hand side of Justin, and he got there before me. Tiffany's sitting down and Kenan's standing.
And is Justin, how close is Justin to Tiffany when that conversation's occurring?
Probably about the distance from me to this gentleman sitting here.
And how close was Justin to Kenan Ivery at that point?
Roughly the same distance.
What happened next?
We proceeded back to, I proceeded back to work, and he proceeded back to his seat.
And when you say he proceeded back to his seat, who are you talking about?
Justin.
And then what happened in regards to Tiffany and Kenan Ivery?
At some point, they came to the bar. She asked for a to-go box and said, "This gentleman's leaving."
Had you heard Tiffany say that phrase in the past?
Yes,
And what did you take that phrase to mean?
that they somehow resolved the situation and that he was leaving peacefully for the night.
Was he leaving on his own accord, or was he getting kicked out at that point?
It looked like he was
You were not aware whether he was getting removed by Tiffany at that point.
Right.
But she's the one asking you to box up his food, correct?
Yes.
So what did you do then?
Went to go get a box while Tara ran to grab his tab so that he could box up his food and head on home.
And do you recall how long that process took?
Probably just a couple of minutes.
And what happened next?
He slowly made his way out. He stopped where Justin was sitting, and he said 2 or 3 times that I will smack that bitch, up close to Justin in his ear.
So where's Justin sitting when that occurs? And did Kenan Ivery have a seat, or does he remain standing?
He was standing.
And where were you, which would have allowed you to hear those statements?
I was right here washing dishes.
And were you paying attention at all to what was going on at that point between the two of them?
I just overheard and I watched
And specifically, what did you hear Kenan Ivery say?
that I will smack that bitch.
And how many times did he say that?
2 or 3 times.
And what did Justin do as far as reacting to that?
He just kind of ignored it to not make the situation any worse.
And what happened with Kenan Ivery then?
He slowly made his way towards the door. Before he left the door, he turned around and looked around, and then he left.
All right, you can have a seat. After Kenan Ivery leaves, does a different situation arise involving a drunk patron?
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Another gentleman ended up falling over. Tara told me that there was a problem down there, so I went over. Myself and Tiffany were with him. We were trying to get him to sit down so that we could call him a cab and send him on his way home. I then proceeded to walk outside with him so that he could smoke a cigarette and calm down for a second while we waited for a cab, and I could make sure that he didn't leave the bar driving and got in the cab safely.
So you actually exit the bar, correct?
Yes.
And the portions thus far that we've discussed, have you had an opportunity to view the surveillance video, the security video from Papa Don's?
No.
You've never seen the video?
Yeah, I have seen it, but after my first statement with the officers.
Okay, yeah, I don't mean that at this point in the evening, if you saw it, but at a later date, did you have an opportunity to see the video?
Yes.
And the events that we've just been discussing, do you recall them seeing those events on the video?
Yes.
This time then, I'm going to go to State's Exhibit number 4. Mr. Bates, I'll have you come over to the website of Congress and dim the lights. If you would grab the microphone. Make sure that the jurors can see the screen behind you. First of all, you recognize this as being the security video from inside Papa John's Bar, correct?
Yes, I do.
And you recognize yourself in the picture?
Yes, I do.
And you pointed yourself out your back to the camera at this point?
Yes.
And what were you wearing?
Papa Down shirt and blue jeans and work boots.
And what color was your Papa John's shirt?
Black.
As far as it seemed to be something white hanging out from the back of the pants?
That's a bar towel.
And you had that bar towel pretty much the whole night tucked in the back of your pants?
Yes, I do.
We're talking about, first of all, Justin Winebrenner. Do you see him in this footage?
Yes, I do.
Would you point him out? And you recall what he was wearing?
Ball cap and a sweater.
And you talked about Kenan Ivery. Did you see Kenan Ivery first of all?
Yes, I do.
Where is he? And you recall what he was wearing? The moments that we just saw there, that from what was happening at that point, based on your previous testimony?
That's about when I noticed there was a situation going on.
What's going on now with the video based on your memories?
Looks like I'm just standing there observing right now.
But as far as what did you see as relates to Tiffany and Kenan Ivery?
That's the point where she sat down and was trying to get him to sit.
point, I know it's kind of at the top of the screen, but who is up there at the top of the screen at this point at 138.05?
Which corner at the top of the screen?
As far as where can you see yourself?
Yes, I can.
Where are you seeing it? That top of the screen. Who else is there at this point?
Justin's right there.
And Tiffany and Kenan are still in that location?
Yes.
What did Justin do next?
Tiffany said, "It's okay, baby, I've got it." Then he walked up towards the bar, and I went back to looking for things to keep busy around the bar, make sure everything's caught up.
It appears from the video that he had a seat then at that south end. Do you recall that?
Yes.
At this point, has Kenan returned to the bar area?
Yes, he has.
Him and Tiffany still talking though at the bar?
They are, but I'm getting the box at this point.
The fact that you're getting the box, does that mean that Tiffany already told you at this point his children was leaving?
Yes.
Justin then returned to the middle of the bar?
Yes, he did. It's actually the best seat in the bar because with the mirrors you can see multiple directions of what's going on. This point, is Tiffany Kenan still at the bar talking to him? Yes. At this point, what happened? She walked away from Kenan. Right here is where I heard him say, "I'll smack that bitch." Increase the size here. Can you point out where you are at this point? And what were you doing at this point? Either doing dishes or, I guess, where exactly is your head pointing? I'm making direct contact with Justin and Kenan. Where are they? They are right here at the bar. Justin sitting and Kenan standing? Yes. And what did you hear Kenan say? "I will smack that bitch 2 or 3 times. This was at 1:45:02 based on the time stamp? Yes. Here you're looking right at it, is that correct? Yes. At this point, Kenan Ivery has left the bar, correct? Yes. Fast forward this then. 5 minutes. Kenan Ivery is still gone at this time, is that correct? Yes. Recall what happened at that moment? I believe I was still in the back at that time. You got out of there at that time. The individual that we said was a drunk patron that you had taken outside, can we see him on the screen at this point? Yes, we can. Right there.
notice it?
No, I did not.
You're outside. You recall the guy's name who you escorted outside away from the cash?
No, I did not.
I'm going to have you take your seat again. And just put the light back on. But before you sit down, Mr. Bates, while I still have you standing, if you would, utilize the chart. When you go outside then with this individual, where do you stand with him? Okay. So there's a red truck out there?
Yes.
And that red truck is parked facing the bar?
Yes.
And are you pointing near the back of the truck?
Yes.
And the two of you are standing side by side?
I'm standing here with my back towards the door, and he's standing here with his face towards the door.
Okay, so you're standing closer to the building, and you're facing away from the building, correct?
Yes.
And this individual is facing you.
Yes.
You can have a seat. Tell us what you recall happening then when you were outside.
I was just sitting there talking to him, trying to keep him from going back in the bar or from driving away. And then I heard a bang behind me.
You heard a what behind you?
A bang behind me.
Okay.
So I turned around quickly, and I see Kenan and Justin rushing outside, tied up together as if they were wrestling, like high school wrestling.
Okay. What happened next?
I heard a shot, and they started to fall, and a gun flew free. And then Dave was flying through the air as if he was Superman. So I ran over to grab the gun to try and create control for the situation.
Let me take you back. When you see, this all happens extremely fast, is that fair to say?
Yes.
When you see Kenan and Justin outside, where in relationship to that diagram do you see them? So when you first see them, they are by the passenger side?
When I first see them, they're at the door.
Okay,
And it's second by the time they're here,
okay.
slamming into the car.
Is that when they come together by the car?
They was together the whole time.
Okay. And what happened next?
The gun flies from here over to here. And I just see Dave flying through the air towards them.
When you say Dave, Dave who?
Country Dave is what we call him.
Dave Isley?
Yes.
Okay. And when you say flying through the air, you mean jumping or just running fast?
Like jumping.
Okay. And then what did you see next?
They both fell down. I picked up the gun because I thought this situation was under control. So I decided to control this situation. I checked for a magazine. I quickly glanced at the chamber. And then I ran over to this trash hopper here and put it in there. That way, whenever police arrived at the scene, the only person who knew where it was me, and I could let them know it was in a controlled situation.
And did you indicated, did it have the magazine or no magazine?
No magazine.
Okay. And you put it into the dumpster, and what happened next?
I come back over here, and I realize Justin's on the ground, bleeding. Dave yells to call 911. I get on the phone with 911, head towards the road, so that I can fly in the person on the scene.
And what happened next?
The police arrived on the scene. I let them know that I have the firearm down here in the dumpster. I stayed in the area, this area, so that I could keep a visible eye on the firearm, make sure it didn't go anywhere, make sure that they were aware it was there.
As far as Justin, did you ever go check on the status of Justin?
That was when I was going whenever Dave was down here and said they called 911.
Okay. And as far as Justin, was he conscious? Was he able to say anything at that point?
It seemed like he was choking on his own spit or blood.
So you did not hear him say anything at that time?
No.
Do you recall, besides the gun, did you pick up any other items?
No, I did not.
And when the police came, you showed them where that gun was located?
Yes, I did.
You can have a seat. Let me show you what's been already identified and marked in State's Exhibit number 48. Do you recognize that exhibit?
Yes, I did.
What do you recognize this exhibit to be?
The firearm I picked up, one thing that stands out about it is the cable that's broke on it.
Do you recall when you picked it up whether that cable was broken at that time?
Yes, it was.
And it appears to be in substantially the same condition as when you last saw this item?
Yes.
You indicated that you saw the gun, I don't want to put words in your mouth, correct me if I'm wrong, fly through the air, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And did you see what caused it to fly through the air?
I did not. It was just tied up. It could have been from slamming in the car.
But the gun actually went across these double yellow lines and ended up on the other side, is that correct?
Yes.
Did you ever see the magazine?
No, I did not.
Just the gun, correct?
Yes.
No further questions.
Want to break now?
Yeah, actually, it may be a while.
All right.